I'm Helen, 62 years old, retired nurse, and today marked the day everything changed. Not because it was the happiest. It was supposed to be my grandson's birth. Instead, it became the day I finally saw the truth. The maternity ward carried that unmistakable smell of antiseptic and flowers. I'd worked here for decades, but today I entered as family. My fingers wrapped around the teddy bear I'd chosen, soft blue fur matching the blanket I knitted months ago. Mrs. Harrison, the young nurse, blonde, efficient, approached me. "Your son's room is—" "Helen!" Sarah emerged from room 412, cradling my grandson. My heart stopped. She looked stunning despite giving birth hours ago. Designer gown, perfect makeup, that forced smile I'd come to recognize. "Can I hold him?" The words tumbled out. 9 months of waiting, of being excluded from every ultrasound appointment, every shopping trip. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. This was my moment. Her arms tightened around Jacob. "We've decided on immediate family only for the first few weeks, for bonding purposes." I stared at her. The nurse shifted uncomfortably, pretending to organize papers. "I am immediate family. David and I both agree it's what's best." My son appeared in the doorway. Exhausted, yes, but avoiding my eyes. This man whose tuition I'd paid by working 3 jobs, whose medical school dreams I'd funded with my retirement savings, couldn't even defend me. "Son? Mom, maybe it's better if—" "Sarah's right. We need time to adjust." They disappeared into the room. I stood there holding that blue bear, feeling 70 years older than my 62. In my car, I cried harder than when my mother died 20 years ago. They'd taken everything. My savings, my energy, my hope. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. The platinum insurance plan that covered all their medical expenses. That premium policy Sarah desperately needed after her difficult pregnancy. I was the primary account holder. Sometimes the person who gives everything holds the key to taking it all away. The drive home felt endless. Rain started pelting my windshield, blurring the city lights. I thought about the night shifts I'd worked as a young single mother, how David would cry when I left for the hospital. "I'll be back soon, baby," I'd promise. He'd clutch his stuffed dinosaur, fighting tears. Back then, he needed me. When did that change? Maybe when I paid for his first apartment during residency, or when I co-signed his car loan. Each gift, each sacrifice, seemed to push us further apart. Sarah accelerated. That distance, I remembered their wedding. Sarah's family, wealthy, established, looked at me like I was staff. They couldn't understand how a single nurse raised a doctor. But I'd held my head high that day. Proud, hopeful. "Helen," Sarah had said during the reception, wine glass in hand, "David told me everything you did for him. Don't worry. I'll take good care of him now." Take care of him? I realize now she meant take him from me. My bathroom mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized. Gray streaks I'd stopped coloring months ago. Dark circles from sleepless nights wondering where I went wrong. When did I become invisible to my own son? The phone rang. "David. Mom, about today?" "It's fine," I interrupted. The words tasted bitter. "Sarah's just protective. Maybe next week we can—" I said, "It's fine, David." Silence, then hesitantly, "Are you okay?" "Perfectly fine." I hung up. "Perfectly fine." That's what I'd told him when I cashed out my 401k for his medical school, when I worked overtime to buy his textbooks, when I moved to this smaller apartment so he could have a down payment. Tomorrow I'd call the insurance company. They'd been sending me renewal letters, reminding me I still had 3 months to make changes. David and Sarah would probably laugh if they knew I even had that power. Well, let them laugh. Let them see what 40 years of night shifts bought, control over, something they desperately needed. Something they took for granted, just like they took me for granted. I opened my laptop, found the insurance portal. There it was. Harrison Family Plan. Primary account holder, Helen Harrison. Covered members, David Harrison, Sarah Harrison, Jacob. Harrison pending. 1 click could remove Sarah and Jacob. 3 clicks to process, but not yet. First, I'd watch them settle into their new life. Let them feel secure. Let them continue planning their future, the future I paid for them to have. Only then would they understand. Every nurse learns anatomy. We know exactly where to cut to, 'cause the most impact with the least visible damage. The irony wasn't lost on me. Years spent saving lives in that hospital, and now I'd return there tomorrow to begin ending something. Their certainty that I was just a convenient source of free money and silent suffering. My mother once told me, "Helen, you're too giving. One day, you'll have nothing left to give, and they'll walk away." Today proved her right, but she'd forgotten to mention what happens when you still hold the match that lights their world. That night, I couldn't sleep. The rejection played on repeat in my mind like a broken record. I walked to my basement office, the one David insisted I convert from a spare bedroom. "You don't need the space, Mom, and I can store my old college books there." I hadn't touched those books in years. They gathered dust on metal shelves, witnesses to a past where I was essential to his life. Among them, I found a box labeled David Med School. My hands shook as I opened it. There were the acceptance letters. 3 medical schools, all accepting him, all requiring astronomical tuition. Johns Hopkins, Stanford, Harvard, the world at his fingertips, but no way to grasp it. I remembered the conversation we had that spring evening. David sat at my kitchen table, the one I'd bought at a garage sale when he was 12. "Mom, I don't know what to do. These schools, they're everything I've dreamed of, but what, honey? The money. How can I ask you to?" "You're not asking. I'm giving. I'd already planned it out. Refinance the house. Work extra overtime. Pick up agency shifts on my days off." The math wasn't perfect, but love has its own mathematics. Among the papers, I found my old tax returns. 2008, $63,000 base salary, $28,000 overtime. 2009, $65,000 base, $32,000 overtime. Working 60 hours a week wasn't enough. 70, 80. My back started screaming. My knees ached. But David was achieving his dream. Then I found the letter that broke something inside me, a thank you note from his 3rd year of medical school, written in his messy handwriting smudged with coffee stains. "Mom, I can't thank you enough. Sarah says we'll pay you back everything when I start working. She's tracking every dollar you've spent. She's incredible with money management. She's incredible with everything. I'm so lucky to have both of you. Sarah." She'd been tracking my sacrifices, keeping score. But the payback never came. I dug deeper into the box and found another document. David's first employment contract. Starting salary, $350,000 annually. My heart swelled with pride. Then I noticed the handwritten notes in the margins, Sarah's neat script. "This means we can afford the house we want in Georgetown. Mom's help was crucial for the beginning, but we're on our own now. Independence is important for our marriage." Independence. That word gutted me. After everything, the double shifts, the mortgage refinancing, the nights I went to bed hungry so he could have book money, independence was her goal. I found my old checkbook, the one I rarely used anymore. Every check revealed my story. Add her $500. To Georgetown Apartments, his first month's rent and deposit. $3,200 to Williams-Sonoma, kitchen essentials after his first paycheck. $12,000 check made out to cash with the memo line, "David's student loans." That last one brought tears. I remembered standing at the bank counter, my nursing scrubs wrinkled, my ID badge still around my neck. The teller had looked concerned. "Ma'am, this is a large withdrawal. Are you sure?" "My son's loans are due," I'd said simply. 6 months later, David married Sarah. I wasn't involved in the planning. Sarah's mother handled everything. "It's her special day," David explained. "Let's let her family have this." In the photos from that day, I looked tired, gray. Beside me, my younger sister Rose had whispered, "Helen, you're giving too much. Leave something for yourself." I should have listened. The last document in the box was a life insurance policy. 25 years old. David was the sole beneficiary. $500,000 if anything happened to me. I'd taken it out when he was 10, spending money I didn't have to ensure his future was secure even if I wasn't there to provide it. Looking at that policy now, I realized David probably didn't even remember its existence. Another secret gift from a mother he'd chosen to forget. My phone buzzed. A text from David. "Thanks for understanding, Mom. We really need this time as a family. As a family." The words echoed in the empty basement. I walked upstairs, poured myself a glass of wine. The kitchen window overlooked the apartment complex where David lived during his final year of residency, the one I'd co-signed for when he couldn't qualify for the lease. He'd promised to repay every penny. $0 had been repaid. The hospital. Bills from Jacob's birth would arrive soon. Sarah's pregnancy had been complicated. Gestational diabetes, high blood pressure, monthly specialist visits, bed rest. All covered by the insurance I paid for, $850 monthly premium for the Platinum plan. Tomorrow, that coverage would end for 2 of the policyholders. I finished my wine and considered calling David's personal phone. But what would I say? Son, remember when I sold my car to buy you stethoscope and textbooks? Remember when I worked 7 nights straight so you could take that LSA prep course? Remember when I was someone who mattered to you? Instead, I opened my laptop. The insurance company's website loaded slowly. Login, password. There it was, my control panel. 4 names listed under family coverage. I hovered the cursor over. Remove beneficiary, not tonight. Let them sleep peacefully in their new world. Let them hold their baby close and discuss their perfect future. Let Sarah post photos on Facebook of their joy. So blessed to have our healthy baby boy home. Let them forget that their blessings were built on my broken back and empty wallet. Tomorrow was Monday. I had an appointment at the insurance office. Just routine paperwork, they'd think. The irony wasn't lost on me. All those years studying anatomy to save lives, and now I'd use my knowledge of a different kind of body, the body of paperwork that kept their life comfortable, to perform a surgical removal that would leave them bleeding. My mother's voice echoed in my memory again. Helen, giving without boundaries is just choosing pain. Tonight, I was ending my contract with pain. Starting tomorrow, they'd understand the true cost of taking someone for granted. And the best part? I'd learned from my nursing days. The most effective cuts are the ones they never see coming. Friday morning, 3 days after Jacob's birth, David called just as I was pouring coffee. His voice sounded strained. Mom, can we stop by this weekend? Sarah wants to bring Jacob for a short visit. My heart leaped foolishly. Of course. I'll clean the house and… Just for a minute. We're visiting her parents afterward. The excitement leaked out of me like air from a balloon. Oh, all right. Saturday arrived cold and drizzly. I'd spent hours preparing anyway. Dusting, vacuuming, setting out fresh flowers. The house smelled of cinnamon rolls, David's favorite. Pathetic, I knew. But habits born from love don't die easily. My doorbell rang at noon. When I opened it, Sarah stood there in a designer coat, baby carrier strapped to her chest. David followed, carrying a diaper bag that probably cost more than my winter coat. Jacob's sleeping, Sarah announced before I could speak. Please don't wake him. I won't, I promised. They stepped inside my tiny living room. Sarah's eyes swept the space critically. You should really update the carpet, Helen. Must be 20 years old. David said nothing. He hadn't mentioned that I'd replaced the original carpet so he could have hardwood floors in his childhood bedroom. The carpet I couldn't afford to replace because medical school had drained my savings. Can I at least see him? I reached toward the carrier. Don't touch, Sarah snapped. He's in a sleep cycle. The pediatrician said consistency is crucial. I pulled my hand back, stung. Would you like the cinnamon rolls? They're fresh. No sugar for me, Sarah said, watching my post-baby diet. I offered one to David. He shook his head. We can't stay long. Sarah's parents are expecting us. 20 minutes passed. We talked about nothing important. The weather, traffic. Jacob slept through it all. We should go, Sarah finally announced. They left. My phone rang. The caller ID showed unknown. I answered anyway. Mrs. Harrison? This is Darlene from Memorial Ward. I worked with you years ago. Oh, Darlene, how are you? I'm good, but… Listen, I hesitated calling, but I thought you should know. That woman, your son's wife, she came by the ward yesterday claiming she needed psychological records on you. My blood ran cold. What? She said you'd been acting unstable, obsessive, about the baby, asked about anything in your file regarding mental health issues or medication. The pieces clicked together. Sarah wasn't just keeping me away from Jacob, she was building a case against me. Darlene was. Was David with her? No, honey. She came alone. After I hung up, my hands shook violently. I sank into my worn armchair, the same one where I'd rocked David during his colic phase. Obsessive. Unstable. The words echoed in my mind. Tuesday brought my doctor's appointment. I needed a refill on my blood pressure medication. The office was busy, the wait long. A familiar voice caught my attention. Really, you haven't met her. David's mother. Poor thing's delusional. Follows us everywhere. Shows up uninvited. My heart stopped. 2 seats over, Sarah held Jacob while chatting with another woman. They hadn't seen me yet. How awful, the other woman exclaimed. We're actually considering a restraining order. For Jacob's safety. I slipped deeper into my chair, grabbed a magazine to hide my face. The words on the page blurred through tears. How had it come to this? That night, David called again. Mom, we need to talk about boundaries. Boundaries? Sarah feels. She thinks you're having trouble accepting your new role. As a grandparent, not a primary caregiver. The careful phrasing, the therapeutic language. This was Sarah talking through him. David, I just want to love my grandson. We know, but you need to back off. Give us space. Space. First, independence. Now, space. What was next? I hung up and opened my laptop. The insurance renewal notice glowed on the screen. I had questions. Did they know about the policy's automatic renewal? Did they realize I could modify or terminate coverage at any time? Questions turned to certainty. They'd never bothered to check. Why would they? The money came from my account monthly, silent as my suffering had been all these years. I clicked through to member management. The options stared back at me. Update coverage remove, member change, primary holder, terminate coverage, emergency removal. The last option caught my eye. For circumstances where immediate coverage change is necessary for the welfare of involved parties, the hospital would contact the insurance Monday morning. Sarah had scheduled Jacob for his first checkup. They'd expect the platinum coverage that covered specialists, private rooms, unlimited visits. Friday evening, armed with papers and purpose, I drove to the insurance office. The agent, Frank, had handled my account for 15 years. Helen, good to see you. Here for the renewal? Actually, I need to make some changes. Frank pulled up my account. What kind of changes? I want to remove Sarah and Jacob from the policy. That's quite significant. May I ask why? The tears wouldn't be stopped. I told him everything. The hospital humiliation, the lies about my mental health, the financial drain with no gratitude. The system designed to protect families had been weaponized against me. Frank listened quietly. Finally, he said, You're the primary holder. You have every right. I'll process this immediately. Make it effective Monday morning. He nodded. I'll backdate the forms to today, Friday, so when the hospital calls Monday, they'll be notified. The coverage ended at close of business Friday. They'll think it was a weekend processing delay. Thank you. Helen, I'm a single parent too. I understand. I drove home lighter than I'd felt in years. Monday morning, the real conversation would begin. Not about boundaries or space, but about consequences. They thought they were protecting Jacob from an unstable grandmother. Soon they'd learn what unstable really meant. An insurance-free family facing thousands in medical bills. I'd spent 40 years protecting others. Once, just once, I'd protect myself instead. That night, I opened the medical billing software I still had from work. Out of curiosity, I calculated the cost of Jacob's birth without insurance. Hospital stay, $6,500. Physician fees, $3,200. Anesthesia, $1,100. Pediatrician, $800. Lab work, $950. Total, $12,550. With Sarah's premium coverage, they'd paid only co-pays. Without it, they'd face the full amount. Plus ongoing costs. Jacob's specialist appointments for his heart murmur, Sarah's postpartum care, prescription medications. The math was sobering. The justice felt perfect. Some lessons come through textbooks. Others come wrapped in hospital bills. Monday morning would deliver their first lesson. The real education would follow. 40 years ago, medicine taught me that precision cuts heal cleanest. Some wounds, though, are meant to leave scars. Monday morning arrived with freezing rain. Perfect weather for the storm about to hit David and Sarah. I sat in my breakfast nook, coffee steaming, when the first call came. Mom? David's voice was tight. Did you do something with the insurance? Good morning to you, too, I said calmly. We're at the pediatrician's office. They're saying the coverage was terminated. Last Friday, actually, at close of business. The silence stretched. Then, what the hell, Mom? It was the first time in 20 years he'd cursed at me. Part of me felt vindicated. Language, David? Remember when I told you words have power? Actions do too. You can't just... He stopped, lowered his voice. Sarah's crying. They want $800 up front for the appointment. Do you know what this means? Yes. It means you pay your own bills now. Isn't that what independence looks like? The line went dead. I poured more coffee, opened my newspaper. The crossword puzzle cleared my mind. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed with texts. David, we'll figure this out ourselves. David, don't do this to Jacob. David, Mom, please, I'm sorry about the hospital. I typed back, medical billing offices usually offer payment plans. Isn't that what you'd tell your patients? No response. By noon, memories flooded back, the weight of debts I'd carried alone, that first winter after his father left. David was 8, I was 30. The furnace died mid-January. I'd worked 4 straight night shifts to save $700 for repairs. We slept under blankets in the living room for 2 weeks. I found my old employee badge from the hospital gift shop where I'd worked weekends to supplement my nursing income. 25 cents above minimum wage. I'd fold scrubs between customers, studying anatomy flashcards David made for me. Evening brought a voicemail from Sarah. Her voice was ice. Helen, I don't know what game you're playing, but it stops now. We'll pay for our own insurance. But remember, you're cutting yourself out of Jacob's life. The threat rang hollow. I was already cut out. Tuesday morning, I visited my bank. The manager, Patricia, knew my story. I'd helped her mother through hospice care. Helen, what brings you in? I need to review my accounts. She pulled up my information. Anything specific? Actually, let's check which accounts have cosigners. Her eyes widened slightly. Oh, I see. The mortgage I'd co-signed during David's residency. The car loan I'd guaranteed. The credit card I'd opened for emergencies. His emergencies. All still active. All requiring my signature for major changes. Patricia, I want to understand my rights here. She reviewed the documents. You're technically still a borrower on the mortgage. If anything goes wrong, you're financially responsible. Can I remove myself? Only with the other party's consent or by refinancing. I smiled. What if they don't want to refinance? She caught my meaning. Then you remain liable. Unless... What? Unless you decide to exercise your rights on the mortgage, challenge the payments, request an acceleration clause review. I left the bank with new understanding. Power isn't just about what you can remove, it's about what you still control. That night, David called again. Calmer now. Mom, we signed up for a new plan. Bronze coverage. It's what we can afford. Good. Bronze is better than nothing. But there's a waiting period. 3 months. Jacob has a specialist appointment next week. The heart murmur follow-up. My nurse's instinct flared. Heart murmurs in newborns needed monitoring. But I stayed silent. We'll figure it out, he continued. Sarah's parents might help. The irony cut deep. Her parents, the ones who'd pitied me at the wedding, would now save them from the consequences of abandoning me. David, can I ask you something? What? Do you remember teaching you to make pancakes when you were 6? You cried because the first one was terrible, I guess. I told you failure is just practice in disguise. But some people never learn that lesson about relationships. Silence. What do you want, Mom? Everything I'd given and would never get back, I thought. Instead, I said, I want you to remember what sacrificing for family really means. Thursday brought an unexpected visitor. Sarah's mother, Diane, rang my doorbell at 9 a.m. Designer handbag, perfect hair, judgmental expression intact. Helen, we need to discuss your behavior. I made her coffee anyway. Hospitality isn't about deserving. You're hurting Jacob with these. Games, she declared. Games? Like the ones Sarah played at the hospital? Telling the staff I was unstable? Diane blinked, startled. She was protecting Jacob. From what? My love? My sacrifice? The money I spent raising his father? That was your choice. Choice. There was that word again. You're right. And canceling insurance was mine. She left 20 minutes later, threats trailing behind her. They'd find another insurance provider. They'd make it without me. They'd teach Jacob about boundaries. I cleaned the coffee cups thinking about boundaries. I'd had none when David needed me. Now he had too many. Friday evening, I opened David's high school box. His yearbook photos. Honor roll certificates. The Father's Day cards where he drew stick figures. Happy Father's Day to my mom, who's both. I hadn't thought about being both parents in years, just like they hadn't thought about insurance details, or co-signed loans, or the power that comes with being needed, then dismissed. My lawyer's business card lay in the drawer. Weekend or not, some conversations couldn't wait. Sandra, it's Helen Harrison, about the mortgage situation we discussed. David would learn. Sarah would understand. Sometimes family is about responsibility, both keeping it and claiming it. As I hung up, I felt lighter. Not from revenge, from reclaiming what remained mine all along. 3 weeks after Jacob's birth, David called from work. Mom, we need to meet. Sarah and I have something important to discuss with you. They came that evening. Sarah's makeup was minimal, circles under her eyes. David carried Jacob, speaking quietly to the baby. Sit down, David started. Actually, Sarah interrupted, I need to say something first. I waited. I'm sorry, she said. The words sounded rehearsed. The hospital situation got out of hand. I was hormonal, exhausted, and reporting me as mentally unstable to former colleagues. Her face flushed. You heard about that? Nurses talk, Sarah, especially about their own. David looked confused. What's she talking about? I was trying to understand why you were obsessed with Jacob. Obsessed? I haven't seen him in 3 weeks. David sat Jacob in his carrier. Mom, Sarah told me everything. About checking into your medical records, about what she said at the doctor's office. Finally, some truth. I was wrong, Sarah continued. But canceling our insurance was extreme. No, David cut in. It wasn't. We both stared at him. I finally looked at the documents. The mortgage, the car loan, all of it. I never knew you were still liable. He ran his hand through his hair. The insurance premium. $850 monthly for platinum coverage I never even thought about. Sarah thought it came from Jacob's trust fund, he continued. We thought you'd been managing your retirement investments. What trust fund? I asked. They exchanged glances. We assumed, with my salary. The misunderstanding bloomed like a poisonous flower. They'd spent 3 years believing I was wealthy, that paying for their expenses was casual charity, not sacrifice. I worked myself into osteoarthritis to pay for medical school, I said quietly. I sold my mother's jewelry for your rent. I currently subsist on Social Security and a small pension. Sarah's hand went to her mouth. David slumped forward. When you told me you were tracking every dollar I spent on your education, I continued, I believed you'd pay it back. You never did. Instead, you paid for a Georgetown house and European honeymoon. David covered his face. God, Mom, I'm so stupid. Not stupid. Willfully blind. The next hour involved tears, more apologies, and uncomfortable truths. I learned Sarah's father had cancer. They'd hidden it at the wedding, too proud to show weakness. Sarah's need for expensive healthcare suddenly made sense. I thought you were wealthy, Sarah admitted. Your son's a doctor. You live simply. I assumed you were? I don't know, one of those thrifty rich people. No, just a single mother who valued her son's dreams over her own comfort. David shifted Jacob to his shoulder. What do we do now? This was the question that mattered. Not apologies or excuses. You refinance everything, I stated. Remove me from loans, mortgages, credit cards. I can't be your financial safety net anymore. About the insurance, David ventured. Can we? Is there a way to get back on your plan? We'll pay you back for the premiums. I considered this. The bronze plan they'd chosen had high deductibles. Jacob's heart specialist alone would cost thousands before insurance kicked in. I'll make you a deal. I'll add you back to my insurance. But you pay me back for all the medical costs I've covered since your marriage. Not everything from medical school. Let's call that a parental gift. But everything after you married, when you could have paid yourselves. David calculated silently. That's significant. Yes, about $40,000 over 3 years. He nodded slowly. I accept. We'll work out payments. Sarah spoke up. Can I hold Jacob? And would you like to? She extended the baby toward me. This time, no restrictions. No time limits. Jacob stirred as I took him, tiny fists waving. His eyes opened, bright blue like David's once were. He has your nose, Sarah observed. For the first time since they arrived, I smiled genuinely. Poor child. That night after they left, I reviewed our agreement. David would refinance the mortgage within 60 days. They'd start insurance premium repayments immediately. I'd be added to their approved visitor list at the pediatrician. But the biggest change was unspoken. I'd reclaimed my voice. No more silent suffering. No more endless giving without acknowledgement. 2 days later, I received flowers. The card read, "For the best grandmother. Thank you for everything. Sarah." David called that evening. "I told Sarah about the time you walked 5 miles in a blizzard to reach the hospital when your car broke down. She couldn't believe it. I do what we have to for family," I said. "But it shouldn't all fall on one person." "No, it shouldn't." Friday morning, I visited my bank. The loan officer reviewed David's refinancing application. Everything looked sound. As I left, my phone rang. "Helen, it's Darlene again. I heard through the grapevine that everything worked out with your family." "It did. Thank you for the heads up." "About Sarah checking on me. Actually, that's why I'm calling. After you left last time, I thought about what you said. About children taking parents for granted. I called my own mom, apologized for some things. The ripple effect of standing up for yourself. Who knew? Sunday afternoon brought an official peace offering. David's car pulled up, and I heard unusual sounds. Sarah appeared first, carrying not just Jacob, but my old mixing bowls. "I hear you make the best cinnamon rolls," she announced. "Thought we could learn together." David followed with grocery bags. We brought ingredients. Jacob slept in his carrier while we baked. Sarah asked questions about David's childhood. I shared stories, some funny, some poignant. The awkwardness melted like butter in warm dough. Warm dough. "Your mother never complains," Sarah told David as we waited for the rolls to rise. "If I went through what she did, I'd remind you daily. She's stronger than that," David replied. Was I? Maybe. Or maybe I'd just been afraid to upset the one person I had left. The cinnamon rolls emerged golden and fragrant. We sat at my small kitchen table, the same one where I'd helped David with homework, where I'd cried over bills, where I'd planned his future. Now we planned something new. Tentative family dinners, David's promise to help with my house repairs, Sarah's offer to watch Jacob while I returned to part-time nursing if I wanted. I might enjoy consulting, I admitted. New nurses need mentors. As they prepared to leave, Jacob awoke. Without hesitation, Sarah handed him to me. "He's yours to love too, Helen." I forgot that love multiplies, doesn't divide. Watching their car pull away, I felt different. Not lighter. Burdens had been replaced with boundaries. Not happier. Scars remained, but clearer, much clearer. Independence meant both parents standing firm. Love meant both giving and receiving. Family meant acknowledging debts, financial and emotional. Walking inside, I noticed the framed photo on my mantle, David's medical school graduation. I'd been too exhausted from work to smile properly. Now I understood why. I'd been afraid the end of his education meant the end of my purpose. But standing up for myself? That was just the beginning. 6 months after Jacob's birth, I received the email I'd drafted 20 years ago but never sent. It was to myself, written during David's first year of medical school, when fear and exhaustion had driven me to question everything. Dear future Helen, if you're reading this, David has become a doctor. Was it worth the sacrifice? Are you proud? Are you loved? Most importantly, did you remember to save something for yourself? The answers had changed over time. Yes, no, sometimes, and finally, yes. I clicked archive and went to meet Sarah and Jacob at the park. She'd started a playgroup with other young mothers. To my surprise, she introduced me proudly. "This is Helen, Jacob's grandmother. She's amazing." One mother asked about my nursing years. Soon, 3 women were seeking my advice about their children's health concerns. The conversation flowed naturally. No mention of my past struggles with David and Sarah. That afternoon, David stopped by alone. "Where's everyone?" I asked. "Sarah's napping." I just wanted to talk. We sat on my back porch. The azaleas I'd planted, when he was in kindergarten, bloomed brilliantly. "Mom, I've been thinking about that time you worked Christmas Eve so I could have that computer." "David, no, let me finish. I never thanked you properly, for anything." I set down my iced tea. "You're thanking me now. That's what matters." "I met with a financial planner," he continued, "made a real budget. We're setting aside money each month. Not just for bills, but for you. For your future." "I don't need—" "Yes, you do. And I need to give it." The following week brought an unexpected honor. The hospital where I'd worked for 40 years invited me to speak at their nursing. Graduation. As I entered the auditorium, memories flooded back. My own graduation in 1983, scared and determined, a single mother starting over. The current graduates looked equally nervous. I spoke from the heart. Nursing taught me precision in emergency. But life taught me that family emergencies require different skills. Know your worth. Set your boundaries. Give from abundance, not depletion. After the ceremony, several nurses approached me. Former colleagues remembered me. New graduates thanked me. Someone handed me a letter. I opened it later that night. It was from the hospital's patient advocate office. They were creating the Helen Harrison Award for nurses who exemplified sacrifice while maintaining professional boundaries. The irony made me laugh and cry. That weekend, Sarah asked me to babysit while she and David attended a conference, a simple request that once would have terrified me. What if they decided I wasn't trustworthy? Instead, I felt calm. We'd rebuilt our relationship on equal ground. I changed Jacob's diapers, read him stories, sang the same lullabies I'd sung to David. When Sarah called to check in, I answered confidently, "All's well here." Sunday brought family dinner at my house, a new tradition we'd established. David grilled burgers while Sarah and I prepared salad. Jacob played on his blanket, reaching for sunlight-dappled grass. "You know," I told them, "I signed Jacob up for the hospital's college savings program. They match contributions dollar for dollar." David paused, flipping burgers. "Mom, you don't have to." "I'm not paying for everything. Just starting small. $20 a month. It's what families do." Sarah appeared beside me chopping tomatoes. "We'll match it and add our own plan too." That evening, as I watched them play with Jacob, I understood something profound. Standing up for myself hadn't destroyed our family. It had saved it. The guilt I'd carried for decades wasn't about being insufficient. It was about accepting insufficient love. My phone still held messages from months ago. Angry texts, desperate pleas, manipulative tears. I'd kept them as reminders. Now I deleted them one by one. No need to memorialize pain when healing had begun. The next morning, I started something new. A nursing podcast for night shift workers, sharing tips and stories. Episode 1 began. "Hello, I'm Helen, and I know exactly how tired you are. But I also know you're stronger than you realize." Messages poured in. Nurses thanked me for understanding. One wrote, "My son wants to be a doctor. Your story gives me hope for our relationship." 2 months later, David announced big news. He'd been offered department chief at the hospital. The position meant stability, respect, and yes, better insurance options. "The crazy thing is," he confided, "I kept putting off these promotions, afraid they'd take too much time from family. But ironically, you taught me the most important lesson, which is that family includes taking care of yourself too." Sarah organized a celebration dinner as I held Jacob, now 6 months old, babbling. And grabbing everything, I noticed something. His eyes had changed from bright blue to brown with gold flecks, like mine. David's had been blue throughout childhood. "He has your eyes," David observed. "Yes," I agreed. "And hopefully, he'll have better boundaries than I did." We laughed together. Real laughter. No hidden resentment, no walking on eggshells. That night, alone in my house, I poured wine and sat by the window. The moon hung full and golden. My joints ached less. Maybe hope was better medicine than I'd realized. I opened a fresh document and began typing. "Dear 30-year-old Helen, someday, you'll learn that love without boundaries isn't love. It's surrender. You'll discover that standing up isn't selfishness. It's self-respect. Most importantly, you'll understand that families built on guilt crumble, but those built on honesty endure. Keep going. It gets better. Your future self." I saved the file and closed my laptop. Outside, an owl called to its mate. Somewhere in the city, night shift nurses started their rounds. My tribe. My people. I knew their struggles intimately. Monday morning brought a familiar rhythm. Coffee, crossword, then volunteering at the Nursing Education Center. The new director asked me to consider teaching a course. Sustainable compassion, caring for others without losing yourself. "I'm not sure I'm qualified," I admitted. "Actually," she smiled, "you're uniquely qualified. Most people haven't found the balance you have now." Balance. I'd been fighting for equilibrium my entire life without realizing it. As I walked home, my phone buzzed. A text from David. "Mom, forgot to mention that thank you note I wrote in med school. I found it while cleaning. Cringed at the part about Sarah managing money so we'd pay you back. We both did. Promise we're doing better now." I smiled at the message. Acknowledgement is never too late. That evening, I made dinner for one but didn't feel lonely. My calendar showed future plans. Jacob's first birthday in 3 months, David's white coat ceremony next year, and my own podcast expanding to a YouTube channel. Most importantly, I'd scheduled lunch dates with old nursing friends, building my own support system, not just supporting others. As I cleaned dishes, I noticed my reflection in the window. Gray hair I no longer colored, laugh lines around my eyes, shoulders no longer slumped from carrying everything alone. I looked like someone who'd learned life's hardest lesson. Giving your all doesn't mean giving yourself away. The owl called again outside. This time, I heard its mate answer. Even nature understood what I'd finally learned. Family isn't about sacrifice or silence. It's about finding your voice, setting your boundaries, and teaching those you love to do the same. And sometimes the greatest gift you give your children is showing them how to love without losing themselves. The moon set as I finished cleaning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time I welcomed them. Not as a woman who'd survived, but as one who'd learned to thrive. Standing up for myself hadn't been my last act of motherhood. It had been the beginning of teaching David how to truly be a son, and myself how to finally be free.